Talk 49. Never give up. We're saying hello to A.J. Cronin. A.J. Cronin was one of Britain's most popular writers, and his best-known book was The Citadel, a novel about medicine, poverty and riches. But The Citadel nearly didn't happen at all. It was saved by a walk in the rain. A.J. Cronin was 33 and working in London. He was a general practitioner and worked very hard. His days began early and sometimes lasted all night, burning the candle at both ends, and that for very many years. But despite his very heavy workload, he always found time for studying and keeping up with medical developments. A.J. Cronin was not only a popular doctor, he was dedicated too. But his private life was completely the opposite. A.J. Cronin could never find himself. He was always looking for other things to do. A balance in life, a hobby. He was never short of ideas, but very few worked. He simply lost interest and stopped. Being a doctor was all he could do, and he worked harder and harder and longer, but he was always too busy to see what was happening. One morning A.J. Cronin woke up with a terrible pain in his stomach. He tried to ignore it, but it got worse. The next day a colleague examined him. A.J. Cronin didn't like what he heard. He was seriously ill with an ulcer. It was either a dangerous operation or 6 months off doing nothing at all. A.J. Cronin started to pack and took a train to the far north of Scotland. The fresh sea air and the going for walks did him good. His energy and health began to come back, but very, very slowly. He would need time. But what else could he do with his time? Then, whilst going for a walk, he had an idea. A book. A.J. Cronin had always wanted to write. Now he had time. There was nothing to stop him. He went out and bought pencils and paper, and after dinner he sat down and started. Writing a book wasn't easy. Until then, the only things he had written were prescriptions, but A.J. Cronin knew where he was going. He had an idea, but the words were the problem. They just wouldn't come. It took him 2 weeks to write 800 words. He persisted. A month later he was writing 1,000 each day. A.J. Cronin was coming on well. Then the inevitable happened. A.J. Cronin lost interest. He stopped writing. He was frustrated and angry. Angry for starting something so silly, a book he would never finish, and a book no one would read. He was sour. In a fit of white rage he threw everything into the bucket. Into the rubbish went his work. Never again would he start such a thing. Then, to cool down, he went for a walk in the rain. And there, not far away and working his field, was Angus. A.J. Cronin and Angus had become very good friends. Angus immediately knew something was wrong. A.J. Cronin explained. But Angus showed neither compassion nor understanding. Angus was angry. How could A.J. Cronin give up? If everyone gave up, nothing would happen. Giving up for old Angus was simply no option. A.J. Cronin was a big disappointment. A.J. Cronin was stunned. He turned and went home. The first thing he did was rescue his work from the bucket. He sat down and started again, this time more intensively than ever. Angus's words had struck home. 3 months later, A.J. Cronin found a publisher in the phone book and sent in his manuscript. He then forgot about his book. A.J. Cronin recovered completely, and time quickly came to go back to London. During his stay, he had got to know the entire village and was now saying goodbye. Suddenly, he heard his name being called. It was the postmistress. A telegram was waiting for him. It had just arrived from London. A.J. Cronin opened the telegram. He was to contact his publisher as soon as he got back to London. He thought of what Angus had said. Never give up. That night they went out for a drink. The Citadel, A.J. Cronin's book, sold more than 3 million copies. It was translated into 19 languages and filmed as well. A.J. Cronin had made it. He had beaten himself. The Citadel, A.J. Cronin's book, sold more than 3 million copies. It was translated into 19 languages and filmed as well. A.J. Cronin had made it. He had beaten himself. And all because of a walk in the rain and some very straight words from Angus, a very good friend. A.J. Cronin never gave up again. He went on to write many good books, amongst them Dr. Finlay's Case Book and The Stars Looked Down. A.J. Cronin was born in Scotland in 1896 and died in Switzerland in 1981. A.J. Cronin, a man who gave up giving up. Talk 49.